Hi there, this is Sheena Rowlands and today I'm sharing with you my latest layout for Pinkfresh Fridays. And for this Pinkfresh layout I'm using their recent collection which is called Tourist Mode. So I really liked this grid paper that's in the collection. It's the B-side of something called Great Outdoors. It's blue with a pattern on the other side, you'll see that a bit later. And the grid made me think that it would be perfect for sewing on in cross stitch, so you can actually see me trying to work out the centre of the paper. So you now know that I can actually count because I would like to do a symmetrical cross stitch. So I've found some thread there on the right, that's an anchor thread. I'll find the number for that later on, and I'm going to mark in pencil the design that I want to do. So I'm aiming to do a heart. So I'm putting a tiny dot in the centre of the squares that I want to sew on, because I know that the cross of the cross stitch will cover the tiny dots that I'm making, and it will just, so I can visualise the pattern. I'm a very visual person, so I wouldn't be able to have mapped this out on a scrap piece of paper. And I can rub out a pencil dot if I've got it in the wrong place. So the idea is I don't want the heart to, I want it to be central. I don't want it to be too near the edge. I want to, maybe a couple of squares free all the way around. So I'm just trying to figure out the top of the heart, the curved bits. You could look at cross stitch patterns on somewhere like Pinterest, something like that, if you're looking for to follow a design. So I've drawn out the pencil dots that I like. I'm now going to come in with a paper piercer, and I'm actually going to pierce the four corners of those squares. So not the centre where I've put the dot, that just marks the squares, but I'm actually going to do the four corners of each one so that I'll be ready to sew. So I've got my sewing kit there on the left with the anchor thread, which I believe is 1355. It's a blue, green, yellow mix. I thought that would go quite well with a lot of the things in this Tourist Mode collection. So in dressmaking, if you've ever done any sort of sewing, they always say measure twice, cut once. So that's why it took me a little bit of time to actually mark out the squares, and I'm just taking my time now so that I don't make any mistakes. Because once you put a hole in a piece of paper, you're going to see it really, unless you've got some embellishments to cover it. So I just want to be sure that I've got it right. So I finished that off camera, and you can barely see the dots, but they are there. And I'm going to use the 6 strands, so I'm going to use the cotton as it is, and I've just threaded some up there, quite a long piece there, because actually it does use quite a bit to get it sewn. So I'm just going to do a few on camera. So that's how big the cross stitch is. So the holes that I've pierced are in the centres of the grid lines in between the squares, and obviously you use the same hole between squares, so that's, I'm going back into a hole that I've used before there. So if you've ever done any cross stitch, I did lots of cross stitch before I came into paper crafting, and I tend to work in rows. So I'm going to work across a row, then I'm going to go back, and that's just something that it's a habit that from what I've done. I find it easier. I'm not sure if it uses less cotton, but it was just, I was always taught that the back of a cross stitch should be nearly as neat as the front. So that is why I do it the way that I do. I think it all depends what crafts you've done in the past. So I'm just going to work across the next row. So this is the bottom point of the heart. I thought a heart was a good motif to go with a travel layout, because I really do love travelling. So I thought it would be quite a universal shape to use that would be suitable for everybody. And once you've got all the holes pierced, you could do this in front of the TV, you could do it on a car journey. So you don't actually need to, you could be doing something else at the same time potentially. So I'm going to show you the finished layout with all the stitching on it. I'm really pleased with the variation on the colour and the way that looks. So that was the thread that I used as I explained. So I've got a photograph of my husband and I that was taken locally. I'll explain a bit more about that in a moment. But I've got all these pattern papers from the 6x6 pad, and I'm looking for one to go behind the photograph. And I find one there, and I decide I'm not going to use any more of those, so I take them away. But I've got all these embellishments and tags and journaling spots, and I'm going to add a couple of layers behind the photos with some of those. So let me explain a little bit about the photograph. So the photograph is taken in my hometown, and in fact the city that I still live in. So Coventry has two cathedrals. One is fully functional and the other one is in ruins, and that is connected with the Second World War. But the ruined cathedral has the walls at the side and a tower still standing, but no roof. And they use it for lots and lots of shows, concerts, experiences. And we went to an experience where they actually have food vans within the cathedral walls. And we went as a family, and lots of picnic tables, and you have a really good time. So it's called Digbeth Dining, and I'm not sure if it's just a Midlands thing, but we had a really good experience, and we were like tourists in our own city. So I thought that was something to put on this layout. Also goes with my love of my hometown. So it all seemed to work in my mind anyway. So I'm looking at the embellishments. There's quite a lot of word strips, whether they're stickers or die cuts in this range. So I'm going to try and use quite a few, because there's some of them that are very appropriate to this setting. And I really like that puffy sticker there that says going places on top of the adventure tag. So I'm just having a look at some layers to go behind the photo there. And if you've seen me do any scrapbooking before, I start with the tray on the left, I go through everything, and then the things I'm not sure about get moved to the right. Anything I think that might have value on the layout literally stays on the paper and gets moved around. So that's the way that my mind's working. But looking at some of these strips and stickers, it says, a must visit, excited to be here, favourite place on earth, finally here, local favourite. And totally in awe of this place. And I think they're all things that fit with this cathedral. It's a place I've visited many times, starting with school, well, probably trips with my parents and school trips, and it's a very big part of the city centre. So it was great. We had lovely weather the day we were there. Luckily, as I say, there's not a roof. Yeah, I've got fond memories of it. So I'm just having a look at how I want this to be. I'm thinking of adding a little bit there on the left-hand side to make it more of a horizontal embellishment cluster across the whole heart. It's not going to cover much there. So I brought in some enamel dots, as you can see. I want to add some to the chipboard camera. So I've just brought in a few just to see which ones will fit. So typical me, I'm adding some foam to the back of this geotag. It's from the alphabet set in this range. So just to lift it up a little, so it's a little bit fiddly, getting some foam on the back. And I'm just going to add a couple of enamel dots, as I mentioned, to the camera just to give it a 3D appearance. So I have stuck the other bits and pieces down off camera, so I'm just going to add this with a bit more foam. You do need a decent adhesive to be sticking over the top of stitching, so I think I'm done. There's the layout in all its glory. Thanks so much for watching. Please hop round all the other Pinkfresh Friday layouts, and I hope to see you here again real soon. Bye for now.